Good evening. The rise of Chinese artificial intelligence firm DeepSeek has shaken up Wall Street, sending shares in major tech companies tumbling. Californian-based AI giant NVIDIA lost almost $600 billion in market value on Monday. That's roughly equivalent to the GDP of Belgium. And the panic prompted the US president to describe the emergence of DeepSeek as a wake-up call for the US tech industry. So, what should we make of this fight to dominate the AI market between the world's two biggest economies? Kate Fisher reports now from Washington.
Guy, the emergence of DeepSeek has taken US markets and Silicon Valley by storm, and it's reached the White House, with President Trump saying that this is a wake-up call for US tech companies, saying that they now need to be laser focused on competing to win. But he also hailed the positives, he said, of this, that DeepSeek has proved apparently that AI can be powered on far fewer resources. And he said, you don't have to spend as much, so that is an asset. Nevertheless, questions now for US lawmakers and the White House about how to manage the runaway popularity of yet another Chinese app. Of course, TikTok is another one that they are grappling with right now. DeepSeek became the #1 downloaded app in the US on Monday. Trump has made it clear that he sees competition with China on AI as vital, and indeed during his first week he invited tech industry leaders to the White House to launch the Stargate venture, $100 billion of investment that he wants in new data centers to run artificial intelligence. But of course, the way that DeepSeek is doing things now calls all that into question, and perhaps analysts are saying we do not need that much money and those huge data centers to run artificial intelligence. So all this calls into question the future of his Stargate venture as well. Just before he left office, Jake Sullivan, the Biden administration national security advisor, was asked what he believed the biggest geopolitical threat was to the US, and he said artificial intelligence. And I think the shockwaves that DeepSeek has brought into that sector show just how challenging it's going to be to manage that threat going forward for the United States and indeed the world. Kate Fisher for A News in Washington, D.C.
So let's take a deeper dive into the market implications of the DeepSeek shock and go to New York now, where Hyperframe CEO Stephen Dickens is waiting to speak to us. Stephen, always great to see you. Give us your assessment, please, of the impact and what's really caused this.
Thank you for having me on the show. Great question. DeepSeek has really shocked the market in the last 24 hours. We've seen a huge sell-off. Nvidia's down $500 billion. That's the most ever seen by a publicly traded company. The impact across the entire sector's been down. A couple of names have survived, but overall it's been a huge sell-off today. What's behind this? DeepSeek has launched a new model and a new app. We've seen that impact really the hypothesis around the AI trade that we've seen raise all boats over the last few months. People are starting to question, can you back the overall GPU and overall trade that we've been seeing because this model's been trained so cheaply? Lots to unpack here. I think it's going to be really interesting. I see it as almost the Sputnik moment for the AI race.
Stephen, where did DeepSeek actually come from?
It's a great question, Guy. Where has all this come from? These guys haven't come out of nowhere. They've come out of left field, yes, and they've surprised everybody. But no, they haven't. Well, DeepSeek R1 is a new announcement. They've been at it for a while. We've seen new models be developed over the last few months. Going way back, all the way back to November 2023, they've launched their DeepSeek LLM. We've also seen DeepSeek version 2 come out in May 2024. So none of this is new to those who are closely tracking the market. What I think's caught the market by surprise is some of the claims around the cost to train this model. We've seen numbers banded around as low as $6 million. Whilst that seems like a lot of money, what we've seen from ChatGPT and others is figures that are 10, 20, 30 times bigger than that. So people are questioning, do you need as much infrastructure in order to train these models based on this new paradigm? I think yes. I think there's more to this. I think some of the timing is interesting. This is coming out 1 week into the Trump administration. Trump prides himself on being pro-business. This has shocked the markets over the weekend and led to a huge sell-off. I'm not surprised by the timing of this. Is this a concerted move by the Chinese? I don't think we'll ever know, but there's too much coincidence there for me.
Okay, a lot of mystery surrounding this. What are the knowns and the unknowns here?
So the underlying tech stack here we're thinking about is open source. That's what's caught everybody here. They're using the MIT open source model. What we don't know, however, is how this model has been trained. We don't need to know the source data. So yes, whilst the model itself, we can start to see that. People can download it. It's open sourcely available. What we don't know is the weights and measures, the training paradigms, and the cohort of data that was used to build this model.
Okay, so what about the overall impact then, Stephen?
So I see the overall impact of this being that we've taken a blip on a trajectory that's going to play out over the next 4 or 5 years. I don't see this as a challenge long term for the hypothesis around the likes of Nvidia, Marvell, Broadcom, AMD, ultimately Intel when they get their act back together. I see this as a long-term bull market that's going to play out over the next 4 or 5 years. Yes, this is an inflection point. Yes, it's a point for the market to take pause. Maybe there's some people who've been looking for a sell-off as a reason to just take profits. But overall, I remain bullish on the prospects for the overall sector and where we're going to go forward.
Well, a huge amount of disruption, huge amounts happen. What happens now going forward, Stephen?
So how do I look at this going forward? I look at it going forward that we're going to see positivity. We're going to see this open source model find its way into all of the other models. We're going to see some of the lessons that we've learned in the last few days find their way in. This is going to be yet another vector for growth. It's going to drive things forward. What I don't see is this impacting the huge infrastructure build out that's going to go on from the big hyperscalers that's ultimately driving the Nvidia trade. We're going to see those names report earnings over the next few weeks. And what we're seeing there is going to be a huge continued CapEx investment in GPUs and spend with Nvidia and AMD and ultimately Intel as well. I see that trend continuing. I see people continuing to invest. I see tens of billions of dollars from those hyperscalers. So ultimately, I don't see any impact on the long-term hypothesis that Nvidia is a good trade.
Well, thanks as always for joining us. Stephen Dickens for us there in New York.
Thank you, Guy. I'll speak to you soon.
Well, that is all we have time for on this edition of News Hour. Please do stay tuned to A News for plenty more news and analysis. And from the whole team here, we wish you a very pleasant evening ahead.